Wow, that was a fancy intro there.
Did you like that? Yeah.
Happy anniversary! I wish I had like things going on. And
when we see you, we'll have a cake and we'll have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, a cake to the face would be fun.
Yeah.
I take it depending on the cake.
No, this is great though. When you told me about this, I was really happy about it. Probably happier than you were because I don't know. You put that you put your I saw at least a part of your the 10th anniversary draft, and you've brought up a whole bunch of things. You shook some of my memories. You were I'll pass it to Landon before we get to you, Chris, but you were one of the people that, at least when I first found you, helped me guide through me a little bit through craft beer, and just the different things and the way to talk about it too. I still look up to you in this way, my friend, about how you are able to express yourself and to, I don't know how you write 6 paragraphs about one beer, but you pull it off. And because for me, 6 paragraphs, I'm already on to the next beer.
Well,
I'm
so
fickle this way. It's
a
bad.
News segment into like 35 minutes. So I mean, kind of a piece there.
Right, but you were very influential, and I bet you there are more people like me, but they don't ever really get to tell you. I mean, hopefully they do through your emails and stuff. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a. I don't want to get your head too big here because soon you'll be replacing me in Landon, and who knows what's going to happen after that. So we can't go too crazy here. But no, but seriously though, you're very influential, especially in Wisconsin, as far as when it comes up, and a lot of people look towards you as far as what's up with this new beer, and what's the latest going on with it. So for that, my friend, cheers to you. Landon, do you have any before we get to his article?
Oh, absolutely. Mine's not as nice as that.
Yes. This is not what this segment was supposed to
be. Right.
The roast, the actual roast is
next there you go.
That's next month. We don't have time for it this month.
I never even thought about that. That would be great though.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, go on now, Landon.
I'll be honest with you, Chris. I had no idea who you were until Greg brought your name up. So because I don't read the paper, I don't read it even online. I stay off of Twitter until I met you. I really was never on Twitter.
There you go.
Because
sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I like to read. I like to read what you write, and I respect what you write. And I'm jealous of, because I'm not a writer. I cannot write to save my life. I can talk and not even that well. So I think if you wrote out, what I spoke, people would read it and go, "What in the hell was he trying to say?" Yeah. So this has been fun. We're coming up almost on a year, believe it or not, that we've been doing this together. And for those of you watching, believe it or not, I've never met Chris in person. So this has been a great working relationship, and doing this once a month, it's not work. It's just fun. It's playtime. So that's I appreciate you being part of this, and 10 years, man, that's something to be celebrated.
Like, what I was kind of hoping you guys would ask about is like all the shit that, like, I mean, we
didn't get there yet.
Okay, first of all, thank you. You're very kind, way too kind. But I mean, I wrote there's a column coming out in the State Journal on Sunday. Go buy it. It's going to be on like one page, maybe. Still uncertain. Apparently, I filed the longest story that has ever been written in the State Journal, which is a lot. There's been a lot of long stories. D. Hall worked there for a while, but so anyway, what I did for this column, and like kind of an anniversary thing, is go back and like look at every column that I ever wrote. And I got to tell you, all these things that you're saying like now, guys, obviously you were not there at the start because the first column I wrote about was Moon Man. The first, it was, I mean, I picked a good, starter, Moon Man, and that beer was like less than a year old at that point. So, like, that's one thing, and obviously it never went away. I mean, that beer has been, I'm pretty sure it was a year rounder then, and it has never. I don't think it was ever seasonal. I think they just brought it in and there it stayed. It was. I mean, like that's what we're talking about here. Like, Moon Man was a new beer, and I went back and looked at, like, I had this spreadsheet and I put every column I ever wrote into, and every beer that, and like the angle if there was one, and brewery and all that stuff. And like the first year was something like, I had notes on this somewhere. It was like less, a little bit more than half of the beers that I wrote about were from Wisconsin. And like last year it was like all of them.
Yeah.
Not all of them. But I mean, but the reason that was not all of them was because of pandemic, and there's more stuff coming in, you know, like we've been talking about. Like one of them was Dovetail. You know, like obviously that's not going to be written about in 2011. But the point is, like, the way, just imagine 10 years ago what the shelf, the cooler shelf looked like in the bottle shop.
It was completely different.
It was totally different. And like
5 years ago, it was completely different.
Like that list of the first here, I'm looking at it right now. It's over here.
I think I only have one question for you after you find whatever it is that you're looking for.
Okay, here are the first like several beers that I wrote about. So Muglaris Moon Man, Big Bay Wave Hopper. Remember that one? Big Bay. It was like it was like a contract brew, Kolsch out of Milwaukee. Also Night Train. There's one with
also Night Train
with staying power. Three Floyd's Alpha King. Milwaukee Brewing had a blonde lager called Flying Damsel, and in that
yes,
column, I basically like I anthropomorphized this beer into like some very sexual. It's very embarrassing. Like, there's so many things that I go back and look at this stuff, and I'm like, oh god,
it's a great beer though.
Oh,
that was one of my first, Chris. That was one of my Flying Damsel. Man,
so I started the what it's like. There's, you know, in my columns, it's like, you know, like where to find it, you know, what the style is, you know, what it, you know, like how much it costs, and how, you know, ABV. And then one of the things is what it's like, and I use that as a comparison for like these days it's like, okay, well, this beer is a Kolsch. Okay, well, you probably know about Kid Kolsch, so here's how that compares to this beer that you know, or this other thing, like, you know, like for the Untitled Art, like ice cream stuff. It's like, well, yeah, this totally tastes like this flavor of ice cream, so you should check that out. My what it's like for Flying Damsel was sunshine in a glass. That's not good. Yeah. Anyway, but like, you know, special
great beer,
Oscar Blues Dale's Pale Ale, Potosi Steamboat Shandy, Surly Furious, Bell's Oarsman, Alaskan Amber, Warp Speed, Sierra Celebration, like all this stuff. The milieu of what was kind of relevant then is so different than what it is now. And I know, like, I'm not trying to write about, like, you know, if something is out of state these days, it takes a pretty big bar for me to write about it, like, because it's, you know, because I mean, the way that we drink is different now. We drink Wisconsin stuff first, I think, because, and it's not just like homerism. It's like, hey, I have a connection to this brewery because it is close to my house, and I've met 3 people that work there, and they seem cool. Or, you know, like bigger things, like I want to support local breweries. I want to, you know, it's like drinking local is a thing. But like the options for that, you know, like Big Bay Wave Hopper versus like Dovetail Kolsch or Kid Kolsch is probably a better example. Like, you know, like the difference between those two beers is enormous. And if you want a Kolsch that's good, back then you were buying something from Germany. And these days, you don't really have to buy anything from out of state, or I mean, certainly out of the country. Well, okay, I mean, like, obviously there's certain beers that are like major things. But if you want like a really good beer in a certain style and that's your thing, you can get it probably from Wisconsin or Illinois or Minnesota or whatever. But then it was California or Oregon or like Belgium,
Right.
and I think like that's been the biggest thing in 10 years that's happened is the game has elevated. And I don't think this is unique to Wisconsin. I think this is happening in Iowa and Georgia and Texas, wherever you are, the kind of replacement level beer that you have a connection to because it's close to you and that matters, is a lot better than it used to be. And like, Working Draft is a great example, like 3 years old and making, like, I mean, one of the reasons that everybody's kind of shrugging, like just today, we found out that Old Nation from Michigan is going to start distributing in Wisconsin. And it was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah. M43 used to be a really good hazy IPA,
Right.
or New England IPA back when it was called that, and that was like the Midwestern like landmark for that style. And today it's like, well, yeah, but like Working Draft pulp culture is like that's they're very like they're different, but they're comparable.
Sure.
You can't say that like, oh, these are not even close, like you can with like you used to be able to with that style or pretty much any style.
Yep.
So good Lord, have I been talking for 10 minutes again?
Yeah. Landon, what was your question?
I got one. What point during this 10 years did you become the beer baron?
Oh, that was before. So the name came. The beer's been called, the column's been called the Beer Baron since one.
Yeah.
And it actually ran. The first one ran April 22nd, 2011. So the anniversary is technically tomorrow. But the story is, it happened over a homebrew day. I am not a good homebrewer, or really any homebrewer. Ryan just posted in the chat, no, you won't. And that's absolutely correct. It is a Simpsons reference. So I had my two closest buddies in Madison at the time over, and they were good homebrewers. Like they were good at this. And this was my second batch. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. We'll hang out. We'll drink beers all day. It'll be great. And this is probably March, maybe even February, late February. There was a big snowbank outside. I remember that's where we crashed chilled our wort. But one of the things we were like, I'm like, hey, like the column's happening, like I gotta think of a name for it. And my buddy Jacob, he took a piece of paper. He's like, all right, we're gonna do things. We need one thing that relates to beer and one thing that relates to like either a person or like the writing or the blog or whatever, like something that indicates its column, something that indicates about beer. So we just brainstormed all these words on both sides of the column. And like, we were like, okay, the hop stop, the malt man, the like the wart blog or the, whatever, all these different things. We just had all these names and we're just doing all the crosses and like, does that work? None of it. It was all terrible. It was all really bad. The one that was closest to being the actual name of the column that didn't become the name of the column was the Brew Wrangler.
Oh yeah.
Mostly because it was really hard to say. And I remember Jacob wrote, he drew the little like the guy on a horse with like a hat and like a lasso. Like maybe that's he's like, maybe that's the one. Obviously there was drinking involved.
Wow.
And
what?
You're not brewing for 4 hours and not drinking.
Right.
So we're like, this is so, like, I'm looking at him the next day. I'm like, this is so bad. Like, and there's something like, I don't know, somehow the Simpsons episode of the Beer Baron like came to mind. Beer Baron. Like maybe is that it? Or I don't know if it was my idea or I don't know what it was, but somehow it is a Simpsons reference. I don't know. That's it.
Excellent.
Hey,
and I'm sorry. And then yeah.
Nope, you're good.
No, I wanted to since the column hasn't dropped yet. I wanted to tease some of the things that are in it, but not obviously give it away. But one of the things that I like about this list, your column here, and I love how I get. Can I always get like pre-access to these columns, or is it just
no?
Yeah, whatever. Anyway,
you got it once, you don't get it anymore.
Right. But no, I like Chris. Again, part of the reason why you were a big influence on me, and you can almost see it in this top 10 list of yours, is that like your top 10 list it's just a different. There, everybody's like, oh, IPAs. Chris has 3 IPAs on here, I believe. The rest are just a different.
These are my I actually confessed my top 10 beers in this.
Right, and there's some there's some lagers there. There's a couple stouts, but it's not like IPA centric, and it's not any really centric on anything. It's a broad range of tastes, and that's where I started, and that's where I'm going to end at some point. Is this a broad range of tastes? I want to go into a brewer and just I don't even want to call out. I almost called out a brewer for not being this way. Sorry, I didn't mean to. But I mean, just in a eclectic, from Kolsch to Russian Imperial Stout. I mean, and that's basically how your list goes, for the most part. And I like that because, again, that's part of what I got off of you is that beer is diverse, and you really, really got to get out there and just try a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and
also, I don't want to get. He's got one commercial beer on there. You guys probably all know that if you follow him, and that's really, really interesting angle too. I'm not even going to try to touch that, or we'll go another hour. But we could. I mean, because I think we talked about it before a couple times, or once or twice on here about how you picked that one. I'm not even going to say it, but you picked the one commercial beer. But there's one commercial big beer on it. The rest are big craft beers. And real quick, and then I'll shut up. Part of it talks about one of my favorite styles that I got. I don't know if I got off of you, but I love it. Is black IPAs, and about how you talked about them in a short period of time, and that's kind of how they were. They were like a short flash. Like, man, I black IPAs matter. I gotta say that. But anyway, I gotta say that because y'all know, man. This is something I've always said, especially when they were in their heydays. I loved them, but where did they go? I hope when the pandemic ends, we can get back to black IPAs. Those are just a fun style. It's fun. It's hoppy. It's like it's everything for me. I love it. If that was out before when I made my name, I would be Daddy Black IPA. Because if it was about my favorite style, that's what I would do. Because it has to me, that beer has the elements of big hops if you want, and big roast, and it can work together. And those are my 2 favorite, tastes that I want. So yeah, I don't know. I said a whole bunch of shit, and we're like an hour and a half in this. But
I do have to talk about black IPA because there are a lot of things that I laughed about when I was kind of like compiling this whole thing and kind of doing the research for this retrospective. But the fact that, dude, I wrote about 4 black IPAs in like 9 months between, I think it was late 2013 and like kind of like fall 2014. It's just like, really? Like there's not like, I mean, it's not like most of them were like, I think that was the point when it was every week too. So it was like, come on, man! Like another black. I can just imagine these. The readers being like, "Are you serious? I don't like this. I don't like this shit. It's like it's roasty and bitter at the same time." And I know Greg just said that was good, but the black IPAs of 2014 were a little different than the black IPAs that I remember that we've had like in this kind of revive, because they are back now.
Sure.
And like I think they're better now than I remember. I don't know. I mean, this is the thing too, is like your palate just changes.
Oh yeah.
Like I used to not be able to stand certain things, and there's some things that I still can't stand. But I mean, part of like, and actually to bring it back to one of the other things you said, Greg, was like, I like as a columnist, it's like you're drinking for everybody is kind of how I see it, and that there's a lot of drinking sometimes, but You know, I am way more adventurous as a columnist than I probably would be as a like civilian drinker. Like I would probably not drink all these things. Maybe, I don't know. It's internalized. But like I've got like 3 Hefeweizens in my fridge right now. I don't really like that style, but I drink them because like, hey, like I can recognize what a great Hefeweizen is, and if there's a great Hefeweizen, people who like Hefeweizens are going to be
Yes.
are going to want to drink this.
Yes.
So you know, there's a kind of an appreciation that's separate from your personal enjoyment of it, and really, I think it's instructive for any like passionate beer person to understand what the style is about and examine a beer on those merits and appreciate it for what it is, and not just say, meh, it's not my thing. Meh.
Right.
Meh is the antithesis of beer. Like, I mean, sure, like some beers, but like just because a beer is something that you're not into doesn't mean that it's not good.
Right. Right.
So
that's exactly right. Yep.
Meh.
That's a good place to end.
Down with meh.
Meh. All right, Chris.
And I just want to say one other thing about this whole 10-year thing. Thank you if you're listening or watching this still after the Badger Beer hour and a half. You probably have been like, you may have been reading me for a long time, and thank you for supporting my work, and thank you for supporting the State Journal. And yeah, namaste.
Wonderful.
Namaste.
I am applying for Badger Beer Hour-ish right after I get off of here.